everyone. Look, we got 20 minutes left of this normal stream of an hour, which obviously I had damn near an hour and probably a few extra minutes planned today. I want to see if this works before I actually jump back to what it is that I was doing. I'd like for things to get to working fine. Everything was checked out. I know many of you guys wonder, how is this possible? What the hell, man? How is this really the thing that's happening? Well, when you run solo and you do all this by yourself, you kind of run into some hiccups that could come from multiple sources. So as I try to check out all those multiple sources, I'm hoping that it continues to work. Now, you know how things sometimes just lag, and then after they lag, they fall completely apart. Then after they fall apart, sometimes they just wake back up. Restarts and changes happen. So let's see if that did anything. So just in case, I know you guys maybe saw very the beginnings of this conversation I was having about the healthcare situation, as well as this government shutdown that's facilitating the healthcare situation to get worse, just like this MAGA Republican Party wants it to be. Let's now see if we can start just from the beginning again with this lovely couple here that's concerned about their healthcare coverage. By the way, before I get started, that I'm sorry. um we're probably going to run a lot into John's show, so I understand we're probably going to have a bit of a minimal audience today, but we'll see where this goes. I think these are some very important stories, especially the second one. I get into some deep details. So if you guys hang around, I love it. If you don't, I still love you. We'll see you on a Friday, but let's get started again and see if this works now.
My name is Carla Zimmerman. I just retired in June from 25 years of teaching.
My name is Bartley Armitage. I've been in Eugene, Oregon for most of 45 years. I was a union carpenter for over 30 years and still a member of the Carpenters Union.
Our current premium is $443 a month
Through the ACA.
through the ACA, and which is manageable for us, both retirees. However, it's going up to $2,224 a month. We are kind of in shock. That's without the subsidy. With the subsidy, it's manageable for us. We still live paycheck to paycheck, but it's manageable. The Affordable Care Act, we sort of counted on that in the interim period as retirees to sustain our health care. Without the subsidy, we honestly don't know what we're going to do.
Without the subsidy and with that kind of increase, it's like buying another house and trying to pay for two houses at the same time. Yeah, so we don't know what we're going to do exactly. We don't know how we're going to have some health insurance and be able to afford it on a monthly basis.
The thing that gets me the most is that both of us have worked our whole lives. I always had faith that our government would, when we retired.
The government, that our leaders would have a heart and try to find a way to help everyday Americans.
What I would say is this government should be about we the people, not about some. I just retired.
That couple there, as they pointed out, are dealing with some serious healthcare issues. As you heard, I mean, they said their premium was jumping from 443 a month, that is with some ACA assistance, to over $2,200 a month. She says she's a retired teacher. He's, I believe, a retired carpenter, normally living paycheck to paycheck, even on the assisted ACA type of plans. As you saw, the woman there getting a little bit emotional, considering what is that she may have to face if this all becomes the reality that they're looking at right in front of them. So you may ask yourself these questions, because she said things like she always trusted in our government, figured that things would work out a certain way. And he mentioned that he hopes our leaders have a heart. I just in that thought, because we all may feel that way. Why should our leaders have a heart? Our leaders have an obligation, not a heart. A heart is something when you say, oh, I'm going to give you guys something because out of the goodness of my heart. This doesn't belong to our leaders. This belongs to us. Their job is to do right by us with our money. We have to rethink how we look at the leaders of this country. They are servants to us. We vote for them. We don't vote for them to then do whatever they want and hope that they begin to represent us. We put them in place so they can do their jobs. That's what Mike Johnson had no intention of ever doing. That's why he went on CNN in response to the issues with their plans for potentially destroying people's health care further and leading them to, early deaths and all kinds of sicknesses that they can't deal with. That's why this was his answer to Caitlin Collins.
All sorts of other stuff.
And we've gone back and forth on, you and I have on what Democrats want here and whether or not that's healthcare for people who are in the country illegally, obviously. But I think the question is on the healthcare plan, to Marjorie Taylor Greene's point, is if the government reopened tonight, would Republicans have a plan to address the Obamacare subsidies?
Yes.
You would have a plan
we
tonight.
have proposals to, we could have that ready immediately. Yes. Yeah, because here's the thing. We work in a deliberative public body and we have hundreds of members. It's a very complicated, very complex issue that requires a long time to build consensus around. We have ideas on the table, and the whole process of the legislative body is to build consensus around it. That's why we have to do that, and that's what we've been planning to do all along. It was all sorts of other.
Did you hear Mike Johnson said that they have a plan in place? Did you hear him answer Caitlin Collins when she asked him, if the government opened today, would you guys have something in place for a healthcare plan? Instead, he's talking about we need a consensus. We need people to come and agree. What would they agree to? What would they be talking about? What would the debate be about? What types of things are being put on the table for you guys to put forward for the American people to benefit from you being there? They've gotten us so far from expecting them to do their jobs. He doesn't even talk about what type of job he'll do. He's too busy lecturing folks on how hard it is because we have a deliberative body. Yes, a deliberative body that's supposed to work for us. You can't go work at a Subway job or at McDonald's or Burger King and be like, you know what? When it comes to me having to talk on that fryer, I'm not sure if we have a deliberative body here. I have the guy on hamburgers. I got the other guy on fish sticks, and I'm not really sure if I can put this all together. It's do your job. That's what you paid for. The reason Mike Johnson talks like that is because he works for this guy. Here's a flashback back to 2020, when Donald Trump no longer wanted to answer any more questions from Leslie Stahl about what it is that was going on with his healthcare plan. He was all over the place, as we know, and he's never really had one to present to anyone in the first place. Do you remember this?
I think we have enough of an interview here, Hope. Okay, that's enough. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go meet for 2 seconds, okay? Thanks. I'll see you in a little while. Thanks.
Be careful. We were scheduled to take a walk with the president around the White House grounds.
I've got a lot of questions I didn't ask.
While we waited to see if the president was coming back,
Rich?
his press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, came in with a hand delivery.
Leslie, the president wanted me to deliver his healthcare plan. It's a little heavy.
Oh my God, this is his healthcare plan.
Yes,
Okay, Kayleigh, thank you.
you're welcome, and the vice president will be with you shortly.
Okay. And the president's not coming back?
The president's giving me a lot of time.
It was heavy, filled with
Look at this.
executive orders, congressional
I can't lift
initiatives,
it.
but no comprehensive health plan.
Do you remember that? So Trump runs off from the interview, damn near bangs his head on the lighting systems there above him because he can't deal with the heat. The heat of being asked, are you doing your job? Are you fulfilling the promises that you keep saying that you're going to fulfill? He ran off and he expects people to forget these ideas. That was, again, 4 years ago before he lost in 2020 and said that he never lost, and started ranting and raving and sending his foot soldiers to go and attack the Capitol. And then there was Kayleigh McEnany, who's now has a cushy gig on Fox News, handing Leslie Stahl that huge book that was probably about as empty as the original book that Donald Trump brought forward when he got into office back in 2016, of saying how he's divested from all of his businesses and how he's got people running his businesses. How many years later, this guy's got $5 billion more he's made off the backs of us after he's back in office, taking over and installing this kind of government. It's who he's always been. It's who we've always seen him to be. And even up to this last presidential election and debate with Kamala Harris, he still was talking about how he has no plan, and everyone knew it.
This is now your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now.
Wasn't president right then, but he's now president right now. I think he still has some concepts of that plan that hasn't come up with anything. He even said, if we come up with something, then we'll get it down and figure it out. When he's flustered and you actually corner him and ask him the question that he refuses to answer, he reveals to you just how little he knows nor cares about what it is that's happening. So as he said, the ACA has been a disaster of a healthcare plan. He should probably tell that to that retired teacher and carpenter that said, yo, it's working at least a little bit for us, even though we wish it could be lower. We're still living paycheck to paycheck in our retirement years. But Donald Trump, all he has for the American people are a couple middle fingers. And don't forget, he said this and showed this himself. He has a fighter jet in an AI setting where he's dropping shit all over the American people, because that's what he cares about. Himself, and degrading and demeaning and talking down on Americans. You don't have to listen to the people with Trump derangement syndrome. All you got to do is listen to the guy who told you, I hate this country. It's what Donald Trump says every day. And if your healthcare premiums skyrocket, he's happy about it. He's celebrating it. He says he can't wait to unleash Russ Vought on destroying the government further, because he doesn't care. In case you guys didn't know. That's one thing that's happening from this government shutdown. By the way, all that stuff is supposed to start around November 1st, when all these healthcare premiums are going to shift and change. But there's, I think, something that's actually the bigger driver behind the reasons why this Republican Party in total, from Congress to to these folks on the Supreme Court who keep giving him unlimited power and out exits from all of his illegal activities, all the way down to Congress. Republicans in Congress is what they've been up to. The speaker, every once in a while, they rotate the speaker pro temp in front of the House in order to gavel in and gavel out their sessions. Whenever things are brought up, like Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva, who's going to be that last vote on unleashing these Epstein files, at least the discharge petition for these Epstein files, they want nothing to do with it. This isn't the first time this has happened, you guys.
Pursuant to Clause 13 of Rule 1, the House stands adjourned until 2 p.m. on Friday, October 24, 2025.
Republicans in the House open session and then they close session. I mean, there's nothing they can do about it. I mean, we're in a government shutdown. All we can do is do nothing, because Mike Johnson told them to do nothing. As you heard, I believe that was Jamie Raskin that was trying to yell from the back gallows, I guess, to try to get some kind of recognition so they could swear in this last Democratic representative. Like I said, it wasn't the first time they've done this. This happened a few weeks before.
Is approved. The chair will lead the House in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pursuant to Clause 13 of Rule 1, the House stands adjourned until 3:30 p.m. on Friday, October 3rd, at 2025.
It's almost like they're being told to make sure nothing else happens, that none of this goes down, but the pressure continues on. These are actions without a plan on the back end of it. that has to come to a head. I'm not sure what the plan was. Even if folks were believing this is all Democrats' fault, and I can't believe these Democrats want to shut down our government and get rid of all of these benefits and normal things that people are supposed to have, despite the fact that this president has bragged about how he wants to get rid of the benefits and things that people are supposed to have. Even if people were buying those lies, there has to be an end game that they have, but they don't have one, mostly because they follow behind Donald Trump, who posted this. This is actually one of the main drivers behind his addiction to making sure nothing else happens. He posted this on Truth Social. Third-rate Congressman Thomas Massey, a weak and pathetic rhino from the great Commonwealth of Kentucky, a place I love and won big 6 times, must be thrown out of office ASAP. You gonna throw him out of office? The incredible people of Kentucky's 4th Congressional District gave us a mandate to make America great again. And the person that will help us do that is Navy SEAL, Army Ranger, and 5th-generation Kentucky farmer, Captain Ed Gallerin, a true America First patriot. He goes into more about Ed Gallerin, but on the back in the 3rd paragraph of this long-ass post, says, I hope Ed gets into the race against Massey, who is now polling at about 9% because the great people of Kentucky are wise to him. He only votes against the Republican Party, making life very easy for the radical left. Unlike lightweight Massey, a total ineffective loser who has failed us so badly, Captain Ed Gallerin is a winner who will not let you down. Should he decide to challenge Massey, Captain Ed Gallerin has my complete and total endorsement. Run, Ed. Run, MAGA. Donald Trump is trying to campaign for this guy who apparently isn't even in any kind of race or has announced anything against Thomas Massey, but he wants Thomas Massey kicked out ASAP. Is it you want to kick him out ASAP, or is it you want someone to run against him up in these midterms that I don't think he really wants anyone to actually vote in? He's doing this because he's scared straight about what's possibly going to happen here with another vote coming in. That is in the form of Adelita Grijalva to jump on to this Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna sponsored a discharge petition. The very biggest thing in this country right now with this MAGA Republican Party and this MAGA president is to avoid that from happening. But the pressure is building up. I don't think this guy got the memo. Senator Kevin Cramer, he's a Republican too.
I think the leader and the speaker are in sync on this. It may be getting to be time for him to bring the House back into session, if for no other reason, to just start doing other legislation, and perhaps to swear in the House member from Arizona that they're so uptight about.
Yeah, no, but also
I think the leader and the
they're so uptight about swearing in Adelita Grijalva. You mean doing that normal thing? You mean following the normal rules and procedures? You mean not blocking someone who was voted in by the people in her district? By not blocking him, I mean, these Democrats, I mean, they're over here hyperventilating. I guess they're gonna finally have to these grievances about us doing our jobs. Pay attention to what they say and how they don't want you to think that them doing their jobs is a normal thing. James Comer's so stupid, another Republican congressman. He doesn't realize that as he steps in front of a camera to do his part in covering up these Epstein files for Donald Trump, that no one is buying that snake oil that he keeps selling. This is what he said. I saw this and I was like, this has to be AI.
Let's be clear. Democrats don't care about transparency or accountability in this matter. The evidence we've gathered does not implicate President Trump in any way. Public reporting, survivor testimony, and official documents show that Bill Clinton had far closer ties to Epstein. Let's be clear.
James Comer's dumb ass, who ran a 1.5 year long investigation into Joe Biden talking about business collusions and all that stuff. Think about that when we look at this president that's in the White House right now. This guy said Bill Clinton had far closer ties to Jeffrey Epstein than Donald Trump. That's what their findings, that's what witness testimony and all told them. Maybe it did, but what about Donald Trump? Far closer ties. So that means Donald Trump had close ties. It's just Bill Clinton had far closer ties. I have a great idea, Jimmy. How about you go after both of them. That's a great idea. The good news about not being in a cult that supports Bill Clinton as their deity, as the person who gives them life, is that if Bill Clinton is implicated in this, take down Bill Clinton too. But these guys can't do that. All they can do is say, cut and dry case, it's all over, isn't it? Done with this. Bill Clinton had closer ties based on our evidence and our findings that we won't let you know any of, and also other evidence and findings that we absolutely refuse to release or even look at. It makes you wonder, why is it that this Republican Party is so hell-bent from shutting down the government and making sure that it stays closed, to then acting like they've adjudicated all the evidence behind these files, to ignoring all of those survivors of the Epstein sex trafficking ring that were children during the time, coming forward, standing out in front of the Capitol and demanding that they do something about it? As we see all that go down, and all that James Comer can come up with is, we found that Bill Clinton has far closer ties to Epstein than Donald Trump did. We're all done with our investigation. I'm not sure how many of you guys saw this, but warning here, because this is the dark part of the stream that I was telling you guys about earlier. There's folks who have alleged abuse from Donald Trump. We've heard many of it. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this one. It's one of them. I think it's been shared a lot. But if you haven't seen it, this is one accuser. I'm not sure if this was her alias that she was going by, but it was Katie Johnson talking about how she had met Donald Trump through Jeffrey Epstein.
I met Donald Trump at some parties I attend that I was working for Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. There was about 3 or 4 times that I had encounters with Donald Trump. I was 13. Jeffrey Epstein is a billionaire friend of Donald Trump's that was responsible for throwing the sex parties. Jeffrey Epstein knew that I was 13 years old. When he interviewed me, he asked me to get down to my bra, just my panties, and I thought that was weird. But I mean, modeling, maybe it was something about my figure. And he asked that I give him a massage. So then he asked me my age. He asked me, and I told him, told him that I was 13. I told him why I was there. And as far as Donald Trump, he knew that I was 13, and I believe that Tiffany told him. He seemed to take a liking to me because I was I was so young, and I was also a virgin. So I don't know. It seemed like he wasn't really into having girls that were liked by the other guys. He kind of, the whole glove thing. He kind of liked things to be his first. If that, for lack of a better term, but he was the one who wanted to get to a girl before everyone else did.
That woman went through a lot more detail. There was also lawsuits that she had filed with a lot more disgusting detail that, honestly, I didn't even really want to play more of. I skipped by some of the things that she said that Epstein did to her. Also, there was other allegations and lawsuits that she said Donald Trump did to her. But again, she pointed out she was 13 years old. And people had seen that and seen that. I think there was 2 to 3 lawsuits that she had filed and then had taken back. And then, pulled back and didn't continue on down that process. And, many people looked at that as proof. Oh, look, she was lying. No one fully knows. But what we do know is there's many folks who are threatened, as they allege that she was. Of course, Donald Trump denied all that. But then threatened, as she said, that she was. And that's the reasons why those suits and those charges were pulled back. There's also someone else, Virginia Giuffre, who was no longer with us, who was a big time, had big allegations against Epstein and his whole circle of people. And she was threatened as well, too. It's not uncommon for powerful people who are on the line and cornered potentially on something like this to then get to threatening folks, and then folks end up dead, including the guy that was running the whole thing in the first place. I just want to point out, and I want to review from things that happened before to things that are happening right now that's part of this entire cover up. With this in mind, don't forget this part, because I feel like we forget it sometimes. Donald Trump's closest confidants in his cabinet, from J.D. Vance to Kash Patel to Pam Bondi to his chief of staff, I always forget her name, and J.D. Vance, they had this meeting planned where they're trying to figure how they're going to strategize ways to avoid, or I guess, strategize ways to keep this Epstein thing under cover. They're saying it to us in broad daylight. We're seeing it in front of us. But one of those people that's been exposing everything with Jeffrey Epstein is Michael Wolff. I'm not sure if you guys know who he is, but he's written multiple books on Donald Trump. And as he keeps talking and exposing things about him, he's been getting threats. Here's his first part of his response to those threats.
Those of you who don't know me, I'm Michael Wolff. I've written 4 books about Donald Trump. And also before his death, I extensively interviewed Jeffrey Epstein, not least of all about his relationship with Donald Trump. I've spoken publicly about aspects of those interviews, including the things Epstein said about his relationship with both Donald Trump and Melania Trump. Several days ago, I was notified by lawyers for the First Lady that they intend to sue me for $1 billion for some of those statements. Now, they've threatened and sued other people for related statements about Melania Trump's relationship with Epstein. These are called slap suits. They may have no hope whatsoever of proving defamation, but these suits are filed anyway, or these suits are threatened to intimidate people from talking about this exact subject.
Slap suits. So, as again, Michael Wolff, author who's written extensively and has spoken even more extensively about the things he's heard, experienced, and had long interviews with Jeffrey Epstein, which we're going to get to some of in a second. But this was his response to Melania Trump demanding $1 billion in he called a slap suit in order to intimidate him from continuing to talk. The problem is Michael Wolff invites this type of stuff. This is when it gets even more fun.
I can't live like that. In fact, to be perfectly honest, I'd like nothing better than to get Donald Trump and Melania Trump under oath in front of a court reporter and actually find out all of the details of their relationship with Epstein. Turning the tables on the Trumps and refusing to acquiesce to them. Last night, my lawyers went into court in New York and asked for a declaratory judgment. In other words, we will have subpoena power to call witnesses and to find out exactly what the relationship between Epstein and the Trumps was. Now, this is going to be an expensive effort, and I'm going to reach out and for everyone's support. But I think that this is going to be also a very fruitful way to finally open this dark curtain and find out what Donald Trump, Melania Trump, and Jeffrey Epstein were doing together.
This might get real bad. They keep getting cornered. Don't forget, Donald Trump doesn't know what he's doing. He barks and expects people to run. When people have finally stopped running, he has to then get violent. So we'll see what happens next, but they're coming, apparently threatened to come for Michael Wolff here, but he has ideas and plans in place. And Donald Trump also feels that he has unlimited amounts of funds. So anytime anyone actually will decide to fight against him on these types of things, they won't have the resources to continue down that long fight. He'll extend these as long as possible to make sure that it costs them way more than what it is that they've got. But he's talking about that declaratory judgment, which I don't know anything about the law and these types of things, but apparently to do that, you can call witnesses, including people like Donald Trump and Melania Trump, who said, yo, I can't believe you're lying on me about this. Well, if he is, I'm sure you can talk about it and distance yourself from all those lies that Michael Wolff keeps telling on you. I mean, it could get really bad. This is some of the stuff that Michael Wolff has talked about in the past on some interviews and written in books that he had seen and experienced when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump.
Know that these pictures exist, and I can describe them. There are about a dozen of them. The ones I specifically remember is two of them with topless girls of an uncertain age sitting on Trump's lap, and then Trump standing there with a stain on the front of his pants, and 3 or 4 girls kind of bent over in laughter. They're topless too, pointing at Trump's pants.
These are the accounts. These are things that he's been talking about. As I said, there's plenty of graphic descriptions of what it is that people accuse Donald Trump of doing, along with who he once called Jeffrey Epstein, one of his really good friends. But maybe you don't want to believe Michael Wolff. I get it. You know, you love Donald Trump. Maybe you don't want to believe him. But did you hear what Pam Bondi had to say when she was trying to wiggle her way out of answering questions about the things that we've seen and heard about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein? If you forgot, I saved these types of things. Look at her face here when she was talking to Sheldon Whitehouse.
Let me ask you something else. There's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women. Do you know if the FBI found those photographs in their search of Jeffrey Epstein's safe or premises or otherwise? Have you seen any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump left and right, when you're the one who was taking money from one of Epstein's closest confidants, I believe, I could be wrong, correct me, Reid Hoffman, who was with Jeffrey Epstein on multiple occasions. And the senator sitting right next to you tried to block the flight logs from being released. Yet you're grilling me on President Trump and some photograph with Epstein? Come on.
The question is, did the FBI find those photographs that have been discussed publicly by a witness who claimed Jeffrey Epstein showed them to him? You don't know anything about that.
Pam Bondi is not a good liar. So there she sat frozen as Sheldon Whitehouse asked the question again and completely ignored her weird deflections that she had written down on scribble notes on her binder to make sure that she could deflect from the questions that she absolutely didn't want to answer. That's the Attorney General of the United States, whose primary job here is to help cover up for the Epstein files. There's a reason why her primary job is to do that. There's also reasons why Dan Bongino is nowhere to be seen or found lately, because I guess Kash Patel is still strong enough on board to put his face in front of cameras to talk about these things. But Pam Bondi, apparently she's probably gonna be the next to be like, yo, I please don't put me in front of any more cameras to defend this type of these questions, this type of behavior, because as I mentioned before, and I'm gonna go through a few more examples, Michael Wolff has been all over the place exposing this guy.
I urged Epstein. I said, these, you should release these pictures. I mean, if for no other reason, I mean, and Epstein was already in trouble and already a figure of which people were, he was already demonized. I said, you know, maybe this will even help you. You can be on the side of right here. And I remember Epstein said, again, chilling at the time, he said, I may be a pervert, but I'm not crazy. And then he said, Trump is a man without any scruples. chill went up my back then.
The guy who's no longer on this earth, the guy who also self-admitted to being a pervert, but he's not crazy enough to cross Donald Trump, who has zero scruples. There's a reason why Melania Trump was going after Michael Wolff and why he's inviting it. I mean, like I said, when we see these guys who are lifelong committed liars to everything that they talk about, threats are what is that they thrive off of. If you stop going for the threats, eventually they got to put up, shut up, or deal with the consequences. Something these guys have never had to deal with. So another clip from Michael Wolff. Like I said, I went real extensive and deep with this stuff because I want to have the full reminder for everyone to see what it is that these guys are covering up. And how, again, we saw James Comer say, we saw nothing that showed anything from Donald Trump that has anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein. As a matter of fact, it was Bill Clinton. That's what James Comer had to say in response to all of this. Here's another one from Michael Wolff.
Now, this is a key issue right now in the way the White House is looking at the Epstein scandal. The fear is that Ghislaine Maxwell can tie Donald Trump to the details of what Trump and Epstein called the Pussy Committee. The Pussy Committee consisted of Trump and Epstein in their efforts to get girls for Prince Andrew.
We all heard about the Prince Andrew allegations, again, which came from Virginia Giuffre, the woman who died earlier this year, which I think was through some pretty questionable means. But, they say that she committed suicide. How much can you dispute it when you don't know and you're not there? But they brought up Prince Andrew. He brought up that situation with what Donald Trump and potentially Jeffrey Epstein were plotting and thinking together and getting him girls. Did you guys know that Virginia Giuffre just had a book that came out today, or was it yesterday? I'm looking to read it. They say there's a lot of horrific details in it, but it's a memoir about her life, not just the abuse that she had, but also how she got to the place that she was. And her co-author was on with Anderson Cooper yesterday to talk about some of these details. I really want us to continue to keep track of everything that's happening, things that are being said, things that are being exposed as we watch this president sweat and him get a little bit more angry and then send out his mouthpieces like Mike Johnson to go and lie badly about this in order to keep people from finding out more information. Anderson Cooper first started off this segment talking about what it is that he saw in Virginia Giuffre's book, since we were talking about Prince Andrew.
Giuffre died by suicide earlier this year, but she documented the abuse she suffered at the hands of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Quoting now from the book, "Just when I thought things couldn't get worse for me, they did. Epstein trafficked me to a man who raped me more savagely than anyone had before. We were on Epstein's island when I was ordered to take this man to a cabana. Immediately, it was clear that this man, whom I've taken pains to describe in legal filings only as a well-known prime minister, wasn't interested in caresses. He wanted violence. He repeatedly choked me until I lost consciousness and took pleasure in seeing me in fear for my life." About Prince Andrew, she writes, quote, "I hadn't wanted to have sex with the prince, I said, but I felt I had to. Our livelihoods depended on it, for one thing, but I also truly believed there was no way for me to free myself from Epstein and Maxwell's grip."
That's written in her book. I think people should read it if, I know there's horrific things and not if folks are triggered by it or reminds them of their own abuse, because there's so many folks who have gone through it. I look forward to seeing what all she revealed, what is that she's been talking about, because this is when these folks that are in power that have never had to deal with the consequences of their actions, this is when they begin to sweat. I really do think this is the beginning of the end. If it gets to that point, if they're not successful in this cover up, There was lots of stuff that they went over with, but the one clip I want to get to from this interview with Anderson Cooper and the co-author of this book with Virginia Giuffre is them talking about Ghislaine Maxwell as well. I want to link it all together. Remember, they're telling us that there's no connection between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. That is until we see all these connections between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. They tell us that Virginia Giuffre killed herself, and she was just upset at her life. And then they want us to not believe that the things we've seen, the connections between him, Ghislaine Maxwell, and all of the stuff that he's concerned about isn't stuff that we've experienced and seen. But first, here's that co-author talking about how Virginia Giuffre may feel about all this talk about how great of a person Ghislaine Maxwell is from this MAGA party.
There's a lot of blame placed on Maxwell in addition to Epstein. I mean, she said at one point that she saw them as two halves of a wicked whole. I wonder, what do you think she would make of Maxwell now being moved to this other, less secure, cozier prison?
Well, I think she would be aghast at the moving her to basically a club fed, it's a minimum security prison. She would also be aghast at the idea that anyone is considering possibly pardoning this woman. She's not only a proven sexual predator, she's been convicted in a court of law of being involved in the whole sexual trafficking scheme. So this book makes clear that Ghislaine Maxwell was not just the receptionist that kept the notes on when the next girl was going to come, and not just a procurer, although she did procure, and that was in itself evil. But she also sexually abused these young girls herself. She said to them repeatedly, "Come over here and sexually service me." She hurt them. Virginia describes a scene where Ghislaine hurt her during sex with a variety of ghastly sex tools to make her pay for something that Ghislaine was angry at her about. So this woman is an abuser in her own right. And the fact that anyone is even bandying about the idea that she might be pardoned is just unthinkable.
You know who was ranting and raving about how they might be pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell? This is more of a flashback, but only 3 times this year is this flashback actually worth going back to, because the guy in the White House, the one who said he can give this pardon to Ghislaine Maxwell, the woman who Virginia Giuffre described in that book to doing horrific things to her to the same levels that Jeffrey Epstein did. This is how he feels about Ghislaine Maxwell.
Mr. President, completely rule out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell when you landed. Is that something you would ever consider, and why?
Pardon for who?
For Ghislaine Maxwell.
Well, I'm allowed to give her a pardon, but nobody's approached me with it. Nobody's asked me about it. It's in the news about that aspect of it, but right now it would be inappropriate to talk about it.
Ghislaine Maxwell serving 20 years in prison for sex trafficking. Is clemency on the table for her in exchange for testimony?
I'm allowed to do it, but nobody's asked me to do it. I know nothing about it. I don't know anything about the case, but I know I have the right to do it. I have the right to give pardons. I've given pardons to people before, but nobody's even asked me to do it.
The Supreme Court is back, and they rejected today an appeal by Ghislaine Maxwell to overturn her conviction. That means her only chance of getting out of prison is a pardon from you. Is that something you're...
Who are we talking about?
Ghislaine Maxwell.
I haven't heard the name in so long. I can say this, that I'd have to take a look at it. I would have to take a look. Did they reject that?
She wanted to appeal her conviction.
And what happened?
They said that they were not going to hear her appeal.
I see. Well, I'll take a look at it. I will speak to the DOJ. I wouldn't consider it or not consider it. I don't know anything about it. So, but I will speak to the DOJ.
Why would she be a candidate for clemency, sir?
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to speak to the DOJ. I'll look at it. I have a lot of people who have asked me for pardons. I call him Puff Daddy has asked me for a pardon.
But she was convicted of child sex trafficking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to take a look at it. I have to ask DOJ. I didn't know they rejected it. I didn't know she was even asking for it, frankly.
When asked directly, and told directly. Well, in case you forgot, since you have no idea apparently who Ghislaine Maxwell is, since you forgot and you haven't heard her name in so long, that's that woman that was convicted, has been sent off to prison, that you then, sent to a minimum security prison camp instead. That woman was convicted of child sex trafficking ring. Well, I'd have to think about it. What is there to think about still? Who's there to still talk to? I'm not sure if he realizes how bad that looks, but he said it over and over and over again. And the only time Donald Trump is committed so hardcore to making sure that he's looking to protect someone is if he feels that they have maybe something on him. Hey, that same guy that they want to sue for $1 billion, Michael Wolff, he had something to say about the reasons behind all of this fealty and softness towards Ghislaine Maxwell.
In the White House, they believe that the story in the Wall Street Journal about the birthday greeting that Donald Trump, the salacious birthday greeting that Donald Trump sent Jeffrey Epstein in 2003 on the occasion of his 50th birthday, was a leak from the Maxwell family. And in the White House, they regarded this as, quote, a shot across the bow. So a threat, if that Ghislaine had damaging material on Donald Trump. So Donald Trump's lawyer, who, as it happens, is also the number 2 in the United States Justice Department, but principally is Donald Trump's own lawyer, went down, and I expect to try to figure out exactly what Ghislaine Maxwell has, and then they would figure out how they might have to handle that.
And when that number 2 in the Department of Justice, Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's personal attorney, went down to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell, I just want to recap for you guys. It ended with her going to a minimum security prison, her having this long conversation with him, and all these things probably, I guess, we can only assume, a demands list. Because we're supposed to forget about her. We're supposed to forget that happened. We're supposed to forget that legal experts and people that do this stuff for a living said this is the most odd movement of a high-level sex trafficking ringleader we've ever seen. This doesn't happen for this high level of a convict that's done these things. It doesn't happen, but they casually just talk about it. You just have to put 2 and 2 together to have this full realization of how bad this is, and why, again, all the way back to what we started with. This government remains shut down. Mike Johnson continues to not want, and the rest of these Republicans who are tabling and ending these sessions early, why they don't want to swear in Adelita Grijalva, why Donald Trump wants Thomas Massie removed immediately, as he said. It's because they're afraid and they're cornered. So let's not take the foot off the gas. Last thing about Ghislaine Maxwell and Donald Trump's fear about what she may say. Here's Maggie Haberman.
You wrote that President Trump was asking about Ghislaine Maxwell during the first term after, she was arrested. What exactly did he want to know?
Sure. So there was this moment, as you remember, John, at a coronavirus briefing where the president said that then president said that he wished her well when he was asked about her arrest. And that confused even some of his own allies, what exactly that meant. Later, a couple of days later, I believe it was, in an Oval Office meeting with some advisors, he was talking about a New York Post item he had seen where someone was quoted talking about whom Ghislaine Maxwell might have information about, and I think they were suggesting that she did. The president asked advisors if they had seen that item and then said, "She say anything about me?" And, again, this is something that, as he says, he's not really following it. It's a witch hunt. At some point, it was on his mind enough.
Did she say anything about me? As Ghislaine Maxwell was talking about the people that she could potentially implicate. Did she mention me? This really, as I said before, and I said it 12 times, this is the worst thing that they could allow to have happen. And not just because of Donald Trump, because of all the high level, powerful people that always felt they could get away with this stuff because they have. They just have. It crosses administrations, it crosses Democratic presidents, it crossed Republican presidents. They don't care. They always had this. And now it's landed on Donald Trump's desk. Ironically, the guy who said, we're going to release the files. That's how confident he was that he could continue to force people to forget all about it and say, you guys don't need to think about that anymore. I got elected now. My whole purpose for saying that was to fool enough of you into thinking that I cared about this when in fact, I'm potentially all up in there. That's how bad it is. So let's keep asking questions and let's see how they continue to respond, because every response so far has been horrible and it's been looking like they're guilty as sin. So that's that aspect, bro. I got one more story. Since I came in late, for those of you who were trying to figure out why I'm here at 1:30 in the afternoon, it's because I had some technical problems, but apparently they're cleared up. I'm able to transition back and forth between these videos. But very last story, and it's something that I don't talk about very much, but I saw this come across my feed, and I thought, well, this is a wrap, isn't it? Last night, Zoran Mamdani had a debate with Andrew Cuomo and some other guy. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. But mostly between Zoran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo. This was the main moment that got spread like wildfire.
Mr. Cuomo, in 2021, 13 different women who worked in your administration credibly accused you of sexual harassment. Since then, you have spent more than $20 million in taxpayer funds to defend yourself, all while describing these allegations as entirely political. You have even gone so far as to legally go after these women. One of those women, Charlotte Bennett, is here in the audience this evening. You sought to access her private gynecological records. She cannot speak up for herself because you lodged a defamation case against her. I, however, can speak. What do you say to the 13 women that you sexually harassed?
If you want to be in government, then you have to be serious and mature.
Damn. It's like those old Looney Tune cartoons where you're like, and the steam shoots out of his neck. Well, you're a little inexperienced, Mr. Mamdani. So what? I don't think he had much to say to those 13 women that he was accused of harassing and assaulting and all those other allegations. One of them actually responded to it over on X after she saw this whole thing go down. Her name is Lindsay Boylan. I'd heard of her, and it was probably involved with all these cases, but she apparently worked with Cuomo as he was a governor. She said, I am one of these women, she posted. I've been legally abused by Andrew Cuomo for years after being harassed as his staffer. Now he wants to be mayor. Shame on you, Cuomo, and thank you, Zoran Mamdani, for speaking out on this injustice. It's just not looking good. And every time I see something that goes on with this race, as I point out, I have been covering it like crazy. It's so many depths and parts. As many, honestly, there's so many things about the city of New York where I don't live that I feel like I don't have the direct access or really have the right kind of approach to talk about what is it that they're saying versus what is it I may see in that city. I mean, Los Angeles, I'll talk about. I'd live there forever. But New York, this was specifically about this back and forth and this debate here, where I feel like the shots just kept coming for Andrew Cuomo, and he apparently never really caught on to the fact that he was beaten and bruised and probably should have stayed in his corner and thrown in that towel.
We first just heard from the Republican candidate for mayor, and then we heard from Donald Trump's puppet himself, Andrew Cuomo. You could turn on TV any day of the week, and you will hear Donald Trump share that his pick for mayor is Andrew Cuomo. And he wants Andrew Cuomo to be the mayor, not because it will be good for New Yorkers, but because it will be good for him. Look, Donald.
It's kind of hard to deny that. I mean, when you got Donald Trump, who's desperate to make sure that Zohran Mamdani doesn't end up as the mayor of New York, he has to keep talking. It's all Donald Trump does. He has to talk about and promote someone because he thinks people like his ass. People are afraid of him, which is also puzzling to me, but he thinks that they like his ass. So he's like, yeah, Andrew Cuomo, having no idea how bad that would look for Andrew Cuomo, who doesn't really need much help to really look bad, except for the assistance that Mamdani kept giving him all night to look really bad.
In 2027. You still have an answer.
You will hear from Andrew Cuomo about his experience as if the issue is that we don't know about it. The issue is that we have all experienced your experience. The issue is that we experienced you taking a $5 million book deal while you sent seniors to their deaths in nursing homes. The issue is that we experienced you cutting funding for the MTA to send money to upstate ski resorts. The issue is that we saw you give $959 million in tax breaks to Elon Musk. The issue is your experience.
No, the only thing, the issue is in.
Damn, like straight up. So if none of that was true, you'd probably, push back on it and say that, none of that is true. It just, he went back to deflecting and going to the next topic and the next one after that. The issue with your experience is that we all experienced. Damn, he whooped his ass all up and down and all over the place. Now I read a couple of articles that talked about the fights and back and forth that they had, but I don't think anybody can really look at Andrew Cuomo there and be like, that's our guy. The guy that Donald Trump said he wants to be mayor. And even Donald Trump at this point admitted that, it looks like he's not going to win. So therefore, I'm going to take over New York. Yeah, Donald Trump actually did say that. Everything that happens in New York has to go through this White House, he said, because now he's desperate. He's a dictator. And he's like, yo, the foot soldier that I wanted to be in place to continue to do nothing for the city, that guy's getting his ass whooped. Here's the last clip of that guy getting his ass whooped before I move on to something else that he did that was pretty bad.
On you. Shame on you.
No, it is always a pleasure to hear Andrew Cuomo create his own facts at every debate stage. We just had a former governor say in his own words that the city has been getting screwed by the state. Who was leading the state? It was you.
Governor Hochul.
You were leading the state for
Governor
10 years,
Hochul.
Screwing the city.
No.
You cut homelessness
as a legislator.
funding. You cut funding for the MTA.
You as a legislator.
You did all of these things, my
That's
friend.
the past 4 years. It's the past 4 years. Okay, on you. Shame.
When you find yourself on the defensive this much over factually based arguments about what is that happened from the experience that people have had under you, and you're talking about how bad the state and city has been run, and you were a formal official of it, formerly the governor of the entire state, it sets yourself up for these body blows and uppercuts and right hooks to the chin. It doesn't end up being done very well. But this was surprising. I saw someone post this. I don't know if this was before the debate or after, but this was posted. They said just yesterday, they said that this was posted to Andrew Cuomo's social media account. I want to make sure that I read that right. It was posted to his official X accounts, and it was apparently later deleted. Maybe he was desperate. Maybe he didn't like those body blows. Maybe he thought, I can do whatever I want because the people that will vote for me love this type of stuff.
Zohran Mamdani's opponents want you to believe he's an inexperienced radical whose policies will make New York City more dangerous. But what do his actual supporters think?
Mamdani isn't crazy. He's just trying to even the playing field. Give everyone a fair shot. Sure, he said multiple times we need to defund the police, but that was just a metaphor.
And yes, he did say crime is a social construct. but that was also a metaphor.
His main backer, the Democratic Socialists' ideas are common sense, such as
decriminalizing misdemeanors like shoplifting,
third-degree assault, trespassing, prostitution,
And drunk driving.
with plans to decriminalize all drugs. Mamdani will be a job creator for drug dealers.
Instead of helping us homeless get off the streets and into the mental health facilities we need, he wants to give us safe injection sites to do crack and let us sleep in subway carts.
These are actual policies Mamdani and the DSA want to implement on day one.
When a woman's being domestically abused, she finally won't have to deal with some pesky cop to arrest the abuser, but now a social worker to help, kumbaya the situation.
Breathe in, breathe out.
Mamdani is finally lowering jail sentences.
Guilty! But Mamdani says you're free to go.
Who cares if legalizing prostitution statistically leads to an increase for sex trafficking of women and young girls by 70%?
You can't have safety without equality.
For unlawful abiding citizens like us, globalize the intifada.
I'm a criminal. I'm a criminal. I'm a criminal.
I'm a criminal.
Yep. I'm a criminal.
For Zoran. For Zoran Mamdani.
I didn't have a real job until I was 30, but sure, give me the keys to the city. What's the worst that can happen?
Paid for by Cuomo for NYC.
Really? Like, I'm still not sure if I believe that he was a part of that. I ran the whole thing over 2 minutes long. Because there's usually be like, oh, maybe I want to run this guy's ads. That's so damaging for Andrew Cuomo. I was like, there's no way. There's 0% chance he was any kind of way connected to that. I refused to believe it. So I looked it up. Maybe the Guardian's lying because they said New York City mayoral hopeful Andrew Cuomo has been widely labeled as racist after his official X account posted and then deleted an AI-generated ad depicting criminals for Zoran Mamdani. Not even 20 minutes into the second mayoral debate, Cuomo's official account tweeted that video. It was during that debate where he was getting his ass kicked. It was reshared by many more than before it was deleted. Maybe some staffers were like, abort mission. We totally thought that this AI-generated video that depicted a pimp, a rapist, a drunk driving old lady, who else did he have in there? Just, a street crime, someone getting robbed, a homeless guy on the street talking about how he wants to shoot up more drugs. There was probably 5 or 6 other instances and racist little insinuations in there of the pimp opening up a van with a bunch of white girls inside that he was trafficking. And I think the thought was, oh, we were supporting Zoran Mamdani, but we didn't realize that we're all criminals. The same thing that this president is saying, the same thing that his press secretary is saying, the same thing that Mike Johnson is saying when it came to that No Kings protest. All these people are supportive terrorists and criminals. The same thing that Stephen Miller is saying. Andrew Cuomo just endorsed all of those things that they've been saying. And he wants to win the mayoral race in New York. And why didn't he just stay home? It's really weird. That was amazing. That was amazing. And it was an AI video because, I'm not sure if he thought people would believe it or if they thought it was going to be funny, because there was what they thought would be some comical moments in there. Here's one more detail from that Guardian article. So this video follows this trend from the Cuomo campaign, who have published a handful of AI-generated videos in the lead up to this November 4th election. In one early October video, Cuomo was seen performing various jobs around New York City, including driving a subway car, trading on the New York Stock Exchange, and washing high-rise windows. Because Andrew Cuomo, people could believe, not in real life, but could believe that he cares about all those folks in those types of positions enough to then release this final, I guess, death blow of a video that's going to convince folks that they shouldn't vote for Mamdani because, you know, he supports criminals as he depicts a rape scene. And a black guy in a store putting a mask on his face before he then goes and robs the place. Wow. It's crazy. He had the scarf that represents Palestinian folks who are being massacred, genocide going on. All like there was all those racist little insinuations in there, and they thought this was gonna work. No wonder he got his ass kicked at that debate. He's stupid, which is why Donald Trump supports him. Okay, that's wild to me. We'll see what happens, but after it does happen, as Donald Trump has predicted for Zoran Mamdani to win that, Donald Trump then plans to take over New York and have everything that happens in New York go through this White House. He said, let's not forget that. That's wild. That was crazy. That can't be real life. I mean, it wasn't. It was AI. Anyways, I've talked for long enough. Thank you guys. I'm glad you guys who you did hang around. I'm glad you did. We'll see you guys on a big Friday on the stream. I hope it works better this time and we can actually go from our normal time to our normal end time. But make sure you get your adult beverages ready for tomorrow. I said I'm going to quit on the energy drinks. I'll decide that tomorrow. But look out for the post talking about what is that may happen next. Also, look out and check out the developments going on with these Epstein files released because they're cornered on that as well too. Your healthcare premiums could be shooting up as well. So much stuff going on. Maybe we'll have some backups, some follow-ups and updates for tomorrow's show. I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Let all the folks know that couldn't hang around that they missed a hell of a stream. It just took an hour and 45 minutes to get it all in. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Appreciate you. Love you. See you, man.